Hello and welcome to 20 Minutes in DawnNews English. I'm Nadia Naqi with you. A lot of discussion revolves around the economy, that there are economic challenges, that Pakistan's economy is in shambles, that we may or are slowly, moving towards default. We heard this word default when the PDM government took over, and we had Miftah Ismail as the finance manager, who went to and fro to the IMF, did a lot of stuff, and said that now we're safe from default. Then we had change in the finance management. We got Ishaq Dar as our finance minister, and he said that he's going to bring down rupee dollar parity low, and the rupee is going to appreciate now. Coming versus the dollar, he intends to bring it down to below rupees 200. That is, $1 should be below 200. That is what his aim has been. However, in the past recent weeks, I'd say there has been a lot of discussion once again that Pakistan is going to move slowly. It is moving towards default, and if we're not going to take the right kind of measures, we're not going to cut down on our import bill, we're not going to take reforms as reforms are supposed to take place, the structural reforms that we've all heard about every time, we have conditions that compel us to go towards IMF. This is going to continue. Are we really going towards default? What mistakes are we making? That is the finance manager, Ishaq Dar. And what needs to be done? Then there is also a discussion about that nobody can resolve problems of the economy alone. And there has to be some kind of consensus between all political parties, all stakeholders, and work towards the economic challenges that Pakistan faces, which are not going to be resolved anytime soon. So we have with us Yousuf Nazar from London. Thank you so much for joining us. You must have read, the solutions that he has been giving since the time PDM, at least I have been following him since the time PDM took over. And, the kind of rationing that was suggested by him, the kind of austerity measures that was suggested by him, and of course, some very strict measures that he suggested, some of which, of course, I did not agree with. But sometimes you do have to take those steps in order to get back to direction. He's a renowned economist, a well-wisher of Pakistan. Thank you so much for joining us. So as we speak about the economy, Yousuf Nazar Saab, as of now, in simple words, are we really moving slowly towards default?
It seems to me that we are sleepwalking into default. And it doesn't happen over a month or a few months. It can take even a couple of years, as it happened in case of Sri Lanka. We're not Sri Lanka, and I've said this before, but we could become Sri Lanka. The main reason for our weak foreign exchange reserves position is, that, of course, the trade deficit. But trade deficit is also due to a large fiscal deficit. That simply means that the government is spending a lot more than its revenues.
Right.
And I won't go into details, but a higher fiscal deficit translates into a large trade deficit. The problem is that Mr. Ishaq Dar is focused on a symptom, which is very populist way to say that the rupee is overvalued or undervalued. That is hardly the point. The real point is that the government, the establishment, the entire political and military elite of Pakistan is refusing to cut down its own expenditure.
Absolutely.
It includes the defense expenditure as well as the expenditure on its running the government. I don't have to tell you how many advisors we have. We have a huge cabinet and a parliament and other things. And also on top of it, nobody wants to pay taxes, and everybody wants to keep their gains from property tax free. So when this is the situation that the elites are refusing to cut down on their own expenses, on their own extravagant expenditures, and continue to really indulge in a spending spree on all kinds of projects, then of course there is an element that it leads to more imports, and when we have more imports, then our country can afford we have a problem of declining foreign exchange reserves. And when the reserves decline, it puts pressure on the rupee against the US dollars.
Right.
It is simple. But since our leaders do not want to address the underlying reasons, they keep raising these issues that government was responsible, previous government was responsible, we are not responsible. The fact is simple. Pakistan since 1958 has gone to the IMF 23 times during the tenure of each government. So obviously it is not any particular government. The problem is with the system. The problem is the way the country is run.
Absolutely.
And we refuse to accept that. We continue to provide protection to the sugar mafia, to the textile mafia, to the property mafia, and so on. So few people are getting rich at the expense of the poor people and the middle classes of Pakistan who have been really squeezed. And there is no talk, none whatsoever, of sacrifice on part of the elites. It is not about economics. You don't need an economic model to see what is going on. What is going on is very simple. The elites of Pakistan are so selfish. And they are also, I would say, a bit myopic, because if Pakistan suffers, if the rupee, for example, God forbid, goes to 300, the value of their properties will also go down. They will also suffer. Some of them, of course, do have assets abroad, but by and large, they also have a stake in the country. If the country defaults, the rupee is in free fall and so on, and the future growth does not come, they must realize have a lot to lose. But there doesn't seem to be any collective will to address this. Our leaders, that includes the military establishment, that includes Mr. Imran Khan, that includes Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, and by the way, it includes leaders of the erstwhile Pakistan People's Party, they have not come up with solutions that are focused on addressing the underlying causes. And that to me, not just that, they are not willing to listen. Whenever I talk to leaders, they say their usual refrain is, oh, what can we do? Ironically, I was recently in Pakistan. I met some of the top leaders, and I felt rather funny. They asked me, do you think Yusuf Saab, Pakistan is going to default? I said, do tell me. You are running the government, for God's sake. So the situation is really sad. And
it's serious. I mean, it's sad and it's serious, because I think the seriousness is not being felt by these people. What we see is that every government is going to come. They're probably going to go to friendly countries for some borrowing, and then they would probably go towards an IMF program. And then, of course, the strict conditionalities which the people of Pakistan have to face and not them. So let's start with what you said. And I clearly remember that when Shehbaz Sharif took oath as the Prime Minister, after which we had such strict conditionalities. The petroleum products, the prices on the petroleum products had to be increased, which was one of the conditions. The levy has to go up. But none of the rationing has been done. I mean, you see a massive commotion across Pakistan. We're just importing oil. However, on the other side, the opposition was hell-bent that we try and import oil from Russia. What nobody realizes is that we have to cut down on this consumption, and this needs to be done with probably rationing to such an extent that we should have no 2 days of petrol available anywhere. And I think the austerity that was supposed to be conducted, which the Prime Minister said he would, how does he translate that? We've got a huge size of cabinet consisting of 73 ministers and advisors, and a lot of it goes, from protocol to their expenditure. Do you really see that anyone is realizing, and even Imran Khan, if he comes to power, he's going to do anything of this sort, that, you take stricter measures and get back to the direction?
You see, if we go by the past record, be that of Imran Khan or be that of, the other major party, the PMNL, they don't seem to have a vision or the sense of urgency that they need to do something different. The world is, facing a global energy crisis.
Right.
And I'll just give you one example. And for example, in the UK, the retail petrol prices at the gas stations, they have come down by more than 25% since of their peak.
Okay.
Now, is that the case in Pakistan? I am willing to accept the argument that the petrol should not be sold at below the cost. Fair enough. But do the prices in Pakistan respond to the market? When the prices go up, yes, they have to go up. But when they come down, have they come down? The answer is no.
No.
So there is a problem clearly with the policy. Nobody talks about the energy policy. What is going on? Why we have such a situation that we have a mounting circular debt because we cannot afford to pay the independent power producers. Nobody talks of reviewing that policy, which basically rewards the independent power producers and at the cost of the consumers. I'm for the private sector, but what we have in Pakistan is a monopoly of a certain sectors, and it is not through a competitive process. Being market driven economy means that the markets are competitive. There is free competition. In Pakistan, what we have in 2 words is elite capture. The markets are not competitive. Some people blame new liberalism. Let me correct this misconception. New liberalism stands for liberalization, deregulation, and privatization. Very, in short summary. Pakistan, there is no liberalization. The auto sector, for example, it is protected through tariffs. When we have, sugar, surplus, they allow them to export. We don't have any really free markets. That is the reason, whatever the government policy is, it is influenced by the vested interests and by the powerful mafias to suit their interests.
Absolutely. They're all part of the governments.
Well, very much so. They run the governments, in fact, so much so, one, leader, I don't want to quote him because I don't have his permission, but someone very senior leader associated with the present government said to me that, mentioning even the name of Malik Riaz is blasphemous in Pakistan. That tells you the extent of the power the real estate dons enjoy in Pakistan, and their influence is really, transcends all military or civil or different political parties. So it is complete nonsense to suggest that anybody, any major political party or the establishment stands for the people, because none of them do.
Okay, so Yousuf Nazar, since we have very little time, and it would be so interesting to actually, discuss each and every sector, what is happening, because, when you just said the auto sector, I had so many questions and so much to say on this sector. However, having said that, recently, why is it that people are now criticizing Mr. Ishaq Dar? We've seen Miftah Ismail now writing a lot of articles. So in your opinion, was Miftah in a better direction in terms of taking steps for the economy, or do you think Ishaq Dar is better?
Let me address the question of why some people are not criticizing PDM government. You see, our politics is very deeply polarized. Some people who are very strongly opposed to Imran Khan, and many for the right reasons, they say he's a fascist. I believe so too, he's a fascist. But they believe when they are opposed to Imran Khan, they should not criticize others.
Yeah.
That is silly. job of the analysts and commentators and the media is to criticize and critically evaluate the performance whoever is in the government. So opposing Imran Khan doesn't mean that you blindly support the other party. They must do so, but many of them fail to do so. If I have written consistently against Imran Khan for years, even before he took, charge, and now when I criticize something, some policies of the PDM government, some people say, well, what about Imran Khan? So let's stop this whataboutery. Let's focus on the facts, on the policy, and what is good for the people of Pakistan. As far as Mr. Sagdar and Mr. Ismail Saab is concerned, let me be very frank. I do not consider Mr. Sagdar an economist. He is a chartered accountant by profession. His track record is in the accounting, and also his previous, deeds and the track record is not that great. He was responsible for the balance of payments crisis in 2018. I have written a lot more on this. It was not just the manipulation of the exchange rate. There were many other things. Exports failed to grow. The country trade was not liberalized. The CPEC power plants, the way they were designed and structured, I'm not talking about the availability of capital, but you can design things and projects in a way, you can structure them financially that they are sustainable. The power policy simply was not sustainable, and people continue to argue about it. People who have little or no understanding whatsoever how these policies are carried out globally in developing countries like Vietnam, like India, like Indonesia, and for that matter, like countries in Ghana or Ethiopia. So we tend to put things in a very binary way. It is, if I am against X, then I must support Y blindly. That should not be the case, and I think that's the one reason. As far as Mr. Ismail is concerned, Mr. Ismail, he's, I don't know him that well. Of course, I know him, but he's probably the most qualified person among the political class to lead and manage the economy. Unfortunately, Sharifs have a tendency to rely, on the family, on the people among their close circles, and people who basically are yes men. That is the problem with all our leaders, be it the chief of the army staff, be it Imran Khan, or be it Mr. Nawaz Sharif, or be it Mr. Zardari. They like people who are, are docile, who say yes. We don't know such people. If Miftah is, of course, an exceptionally qualified man, he is a very good understanding of why Pakistan is in so much trouble. He should have been given a chance. And I would urge, again, PDM government to stop deluding itself that it can manage the economic crisis. I have been saying it for a year, that we will be hit with a crisis that nobody would be able to manage. And you can see that. I'm not boasting about myself, but I've warned about the crisis in October of 2021. And again, I warned about it before the no confidence. And I said it even during the march that this is the wrong way to go. But unfortunately, pundits talk to each other, the political leaders talk to each other. They don't listen to people who have independent views and who may disagree with them. They have to change this mindset and listen to the voices of reason, and forget about myself. The people like Dr. Hafiz Pasha, Dr. Atif Mia, very credible people, economists, who have been warning, who are also talking about a potential default. But yet we continue to insist that there is nothing wrong. We somehow will muddle along and manage. I'm sorry, that approach has to change. And if it doesn't change, yes, there is a very serious risk of default next year.
Thank you so much, Yousuf Nazar Saab, for being with us on 20 Minutes. We're hoping that we get more time of you so that we can discuss in detail different probably solutions to where the problems can be resolved in a very slow and gradual manner, because we do understand there's no quick fix to the economy. But thank you so much for your time. That's all for today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.